I used these 6 psychological moves to fool my husband for 2 years while I was having multiple affairs. I damaged his mental stability, made him doubt his own reality, and convinced him he was the problem in our marriage, all while I was seeing other men. Watch this video until the end, because at least one of these psychological moves is already being used on you right now, and recognizing it could save your sanity and your marriage. Before I confess how I mentally manipulated my husband, I need a small favor. Subscribe to this channel so you'll recognize the warning signs when your wife starts these mind games. Hit that like button and let me know in the comments. What city are you watching from? It helps me see how many men need to hear this truth. Now, let me tell you exactly how I played with his mind. Most relationship advice tells you to trust your partner, but I perfected these psychological moves during my own affairs. As a reformed cheater, I know exactly how we manipulate your reality. By the time you recognize these mind games, months of psychological damage have already been done. The real manipulation happens in conversations where she seems most loving and concerned. Every psychological move is designed to make you doubt your own instincts. The first psychological strategy I used was the most devastating. Psychological move number 1, the reverse accusation shield. The first psychological strategy is always flipping the script to make you the suspicious one. I didn't just deny my husband's concerns, I turned them into evidence that he was paranoid, controlling, and damaging our relationship. Here's how this manipulation works. When he found receipts from restaurants I'd never taken him to, I didn't explain them. Instead, I attacked his character for going through my purse. When he asked about the new underwear he'd never seen, I made him feel guilty for objectifying me. When he questioned why I was working late 3 nights a week, I accused him of not supporting my career. But the sophisticated ones take this further. I would bring up his past mistakes during these conversations. Remember when you forgot our anniversary? Now you're obsessing over my every move because you feel guilty. I exploited his vulnerabilities, his desire to be a good husband, his fear of being controlling like his father. The master manipulators even document these conversations. I kept a mental list of every time he questioned me, so I could later say, "You've accused me of lying 15 times this month. This relationship is toxic because of your paranoia." This works because it hijacks your natural desire to be a good partner and weaponizes it against your intuition. Most men will back down rather than appear controlling or insecure. It transforms legitimate concerns into relationship crimes. During my own affairs, I remember using this exact move when my husband found a hotel receipt in my car. Instead of explaining why I was at a hotel, I spent 2 hours crying about how he violated my privacy by looking through my things. By the end of that conversation, he was apologizing to me for finding evidence of my betrayal. I turned his discovery into his mistake. Watch out for conversations where your legitimate concerns somehow become proof of your character flaws. If questioning suspicious behavior makes you the villain, you're dealing with calculated manipulation, not relationship communication. But wait, the next psychological move I'm about to reveal is used by 99% of cheating wives to completely scramble your brain. Keep watching. Psychological move number 2, the emotional terrorism technique. The second psychological weapon uses tears and breakdowns to shut down any investigation. I weaponized my husband's protective instincts against him every single time he got close to the truth. The moment he started asking real questions, I would have a complete emotional breakdown. Not just crying. I'm talking about sobbing so hard I couldn't breathe, shaking, hyperventilating. I would collapse onto the floor, telling him he was destroying me with his accusations. I became the victim of his suspicion rather than the perpetrator of betrayal. But sophisticated cheaters take this psychological warfare further. I timed these breakdowns perfectly. Right before important conversations, I would trigger fights about completely unrelated topics. When he wanted to discuss my suspicious behavior, I was already emotionally devastated about work stress or family problems. I made myself untouchable through manufactured vulnerability. The master manipulators even involve physical symptoms. I developed mysterious headaches and stomach problems that appeared whenever he wanted to have serious conversations. I would claim his accusations were making me physically ill. I trained him to associate questioning me with causing me actual harm. This manipulation targets your natural protective instincts and turns them into weapons against your own sanity. Good men can't bear to see their wives suffering, even when that suffering is performed specifically to avoid accountability. I once used this exact technique when my husband found inappropriate text messages on my phone. Instead of explaining the messages, I had such a severe panic attack that he ended up driving me to the emergency room. The entire focus shifted from my betrayal to my health crisis. He spent the next week taking care of me instead of demanding answers about those messages. Watch out for emotional responses that seem disproportionate to the question being asked. If every attempt to address concerning behavior results in medical emergencies or psychological crises, you're witnessing calculated emotional terrorism, not genuine distress. Psychological move number 3, the memory manipulation game. The third psychological weapon makes you doubt your own recollections through systematic gaslighting. I rewrote history in real time, making my husband question his own memory and perception of events. When he remembered conversations differently than I described them, I convinced him his memory was faulty. "You're misremembering again. We already discussed this, and you agreed with me." When he pointed out inconsistencies in my stories, I acted shocked that he couldn't keep track of simple details. "I told you I was going to Sarah's house, not the gym. You really need to start paying attention when I talk." But the sophisticated ones create detailed counter-narratives. I didn't just deny his version of events, I provided elaborate alternative explanations that sounded more logical than his actual memories. When he remembered me saying I'd be home by 9 and I came home at midnight, I convinced him he misheard, and I'd clearly said I didn't know when I'd be back. The master manipulators even recruit witnesses to validate false memories. I would tell my sister my version of events, then have her confirm my story when my husband called to check. "She definitely told me she was working late with the marketing team. You must have misunderstood. I created an entire support system for my false reality." This works because it exploits normal human uncertainty about memory. We all misremember details sometimes, and I weaponized that natural doubt against his ability to trust his own perceptions. During my affairs, I systematically reframed every suspicious incident. When he said I seemed distant after my business trips, I convinced him he was being needy and imagining problems. When he noticed I was dressing differently, I made him believe he just hadn't been paying attention to my style evolution. I rewrote our entire relationship history to support my deception. Watch out for conversations where your clear memories are consistently wrong according to her version of events. If you're constantly questioning your own recollection of recent conversations and agreements, you're experiencing deliberate memory manipulation designed to undermine your grip on reality. The psychological warfare I'm about to confess next is so twisted that it made my husband question his own sanity. Don't skip this. Psychological move number 4, the Saint Complex performance. The fourth psychological weapon involves suddenly becoming the perfect wife during the affair period. I used overcompensation to throw my husband completely off the scent while I was actively betraying him. Right when my affairs intensified, I became more affectionate, more attentive, more sexually available than I'd been in years. I cooked his favorite meals, remembered important dates I'd previously forgotten, and showed interest in his hobbies. To him, our marriage was improving dramatically. In reality, I was managing my guilt and creating the perfect cover story. But sophisticated cheaters make this performance systematic and documented. I started taking photos of the special dinners I cooked, saving receipts from thoughtful gifts I bought him, creating evidence of what a devoted wife I was being. When questions arose later, I had proof of my dedication. "Look at all these pictures of the romantic dinners I made for you. Does this look like someone who doesn't love her husband?" The master manipulators even involve public displays of affection and social media documentation. I posted more couple photos during my affair period than I had in the previous 5 years of marriage. I bragged about my husband to friends and family, creating witnesses to our apparently perfect relationship. I built a public narrative that directly contradicted my private betrayal. This psychological move works because it directly contradicts everything men think they know about cheating behavior. Most relationship advice says cheating wives become distant and cold. I did the exact opposite, making my betrayal invisible behind a performance of marital bliss. I remember during my most intense affair period, I surprised my husband with a weekend getaway to the mountains. I planned every detail, was completely present and loving, gave him the best sex we'd had in months. 2 days later, I was back in bed with my affair partner. The contrast was so extreme that when he later found evidence of my cheating, he couldn't reconcile it with those perfect weekend memories. Watch out for sudden dramatic improvements in your relationship that feel too good to be true. If your wife is being more perfect than she's ever been, while other suspicious behaviors continue, you might be witnessing guilt-driven overcompensation designed to camouflage ongoing betrayal. Psychological move number 5, the third-party validation trap. The fifth psychological weapon uses mutual friends and family members to validate my lies and create an echo chamber of deception. I recruited our entire social circle to unknowingly support my false narrative. I didn't just lie to my husband. I told carefully crafted versions of events to everyone in our social circle, ensuring that when he checked my stories, multiple people would confirm my version of reality. When I claimed to be working late, my coworker would back up that story because I'd asked her to cover for me, just this once. When I said I was having dinner with my sister, she would confirm it because I'd told her I needed an alibi for a surprise I was planning. But sophisticated cheaters weaponize these relationships more strategically. I made my husband look paranoid to our friends and family by sharing carefully edited versions of our conflicts. He's been so suspicious lately, going through my phone and questioning my every move. I'm worried about his mental health. I created a narrative where his growing suspicion was evidence of his problems, not my betrayal. The master manipulators even turned therapy and counseling into validation tools. When we went to marriage counseling, I had already primed the therapist with my version of our problems. I portrayed myself as the partner trying to save our marriage, while he was the one creating trust issues through his paranoid behavior. The therapist unknowingly became another voice validating my false reality. This works because it exploits your natural tendency to trust multiple sources and seek outside validation when you're confused or uncertain. When everyone around you confirms her version of events, it becomes almost impossible to trust your own perceptions. I once orchestrated an entire evening where my husband called 3 different people to verify my whereabouts, and all 3 confirmed I was exactly where I said I'd be. What he didn't know was that I'd coordinated with all 3 to give him consistent but false information. I'd actually been in a hotel room with my affair partner, while our mutual friends unknowingly provided my alibi. Watch out for situations where everyone in your social circle seems to have the same version of events that contradicts your own observations. If multiple people are consistently validating stories that don't add up to you, you might be dealing with a coordinated deception campaign rather than your own paranoid imagination. This final psychological manipulation is the most devastating one. It's the move that breaks strong men completely. Stay until the end. Psychological move number 6, the future fantasy distraction. The 6th and most devastating psychological weapon projects elaborate future plans together while actively destroying the relationship in the present. I used my husband's hopes and dreams as a weapon against his reality-based concerns. Whenever he questioned my behavior or seemed close to discovering my affairs, I would launch into detailed conversations about our future together. I planned fantasy vacations we'd never take, discussed having children I had no intention of conceiving with him, and mapped out retirement dreams I knew would never happen. I painted such vivid pictures of our beautiful future that he couldn't reconcile them with the possibility that I was betraying him in the present. But sophisticated cheaters make these fantasies incredibly specific and emotionally invested. I researched actual vacation destinations, showed him house listings in our dream neighborhood, and started a savings account for the boat we'd buy when we retired. I created tangible evidence of our shared future, making it impossible for him to believe I would destroy something I was clearly so invested in building. The master manipulators even involve major life decisions and timing these future plans with suspicious behavior. Right when my affairs were most intense, I suggested we start trying for a baby. I talked about renovating our house, changing careers, to be closer to family, and planning our 10th anniversary celebration. I buried his present-day concerns under an avalanche of future promises. This psychological move works because it weaponizes hope against evidence. Men want to believe in the future their wives are describing, especially when that future sounds better than their current reality. It becomes easier to ignore red flags in the present when the future looks so promising. During my most serious affair, when I was considering leaving my husband entirely, I simultaneously planned our most elaborate anniversary celebration ever. I booked a European vacation, researched couples' activities, and talked constantly about how excited I was to reconnect with him. 3 weeks before that trip, I was planning to confess everything and ask for a divorce. The future fantasy was my final manipulation before destroying everything. Watch out for sudden increases in future planning that coincide with suspicious present behavior. If she's painting beautiful pictures of your life together, while her current actions suggest the opposite priorities, you're being psychologically misdirected away from present reality toward a future that may never exist. By the time you're experiencing systematic psychological manipulation, you're not dealing with relationship problems or communication issues. Each psychological move represents a calculated assault on your mental stability, designed to keep you confused while she continues her betrayal. Your sanity is worth more than preserving a relationship built on psychological warfare, and your mental health is too valuable to sacrifice for someone actively trying to destroy it. When someone's using professional-grade psychological manipulation to hide their betrayal, they've already shown you they're willing to damage your mind to protect their lies. The question isn't whether she's manipulating you, it's whether you're ready to stop letting her psychological games destroy your ability to trust your own reality. If these psychological red flags opened your eyes to what might be happening in your own relationship, subscribe to this channel so you never miss the daily videos that could save your sanity. Hit that like button to help other men recognize these manipulation tactics, and share your experience in the comments. Have you noticed any of these psychological moves being used on you? Your story could be the wake-up call another man desperately needs.